Anyway, call the meeting to order. We got one additional item for our agenda, a meal bean. And I think that's it. So, motion to approve the minutes from last month.
I'll make one.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, open mic. Gary, you got anything to say?
I'd sent some questions via email.
Yeah. Remember
Gary,
last
do you want to read your question?
Okay, go ahead, Gary. You can read your question.
I'd rather that you just look at the email.
Yeah, I can answer this. The question is about, Gary said, as a monetarily impacted downstream landowner, I'm inquiring as to the elevation that the lake on Silver Lake WMA will now be held to, given the decision by someone other than the Wells County Water Resource District to lower the natural drain on the north end of the lake. If there is an authorized fixed elevation, how will this be achieved, monitored, and maintained? To ensure clarity, please give these questions to all managers prior to the meeting, and if you would, please answer these questions during the open mic portion. So, Gary, the Wells County Water Resource District has not investigated and set a maintenance elevation on Silver Lake WMA. To the best of my knowledge, there's been no authorized fixed elevation. If you remember, that complaint was filed, and then the drain was closed before there was an investigation and an elevation set, and then there was no appeal of that closure. So if there's a valid and complete complaint filed, then the board's going to follow its process, notify the parties, ask them to come to a meeting. If that meeting doesn't resolve the complaint, then the board would be required to investigate, and as part of that investigation, I imagine it would then determine what work is maintenance and what work is improvement that requires a permit. And I expect the board will probably rely heavily on its engineers in that investigation. But until that happens, there's been no set elevation by this board, and to my knowledge by anybody else, about what's natural, what's an improvement on that WMA.
Okay, Gary, you have anything else?
Not at this time.
Okay, because we got a very packed agenda, so we won't be coming back to any open mic stuff for the rest of this meeting. Okay, we'll just move right into the Hurdsfield project updates. Thomas, do you have anything for us?
The only updates I have is the equipment, the monitoring equipment, batteries and cable came to my office recently. Working on finding someone to install that cable and batteries. Might have someone today or this week to get that completed.
Okay, alrighty. Then we're going to move right into the Thomas Roller dike deal. I've asked Jennifer to go back and kind of just give a brief summary of the history of that. Jennifer, are you ready for that?
You want to jump on that?
Oh yeah, we have Lindsay. Is your name Zion now, right?
Zion, yeah.
And it must be your husband?
Husband Josh. Yeah.
Josh. Okay. Thanks for coming in and having a discussion with us.
John Roller's daughter.
Yeah. Good morning. Nice to meet you.
So, with that, Jennifer, do you want to just give a brief summary on elevations and stuff like that?
Yes, absolutely. Do you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Excuse me, I'm packing a vehicle. I'm on my way out of town for work here. What I can tell from the history is that there were probably 2 lifts put on for that dike. The first lift would have been about in 2011, 2012. That had an elevation of about 45. And then sometime after 2015, another lift was put on the dike, and then that brought the elevation up to 48. That's kind of the history I found out. I don't know if there's any questions or if anyone recalls anything different.
You agree with that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 2011 was the flood year, so that was correct.
Yep. Okay. Are there agreement with that. Where we go from there is, let's see, I don't have that with me, do I? No, I don't. The DWR did their investigation with that, and they ended up sending that back to us. And basically, well,
With no ruling.
yeah, with no ruling, basically, other than have the parties work it out. And if the parties can't work it out, then we got to go back and reissue the order to remove it. They gave a couple of elevations in their investigation, not a real solid one. And but no matter if it's not completely removed, then you got to go for a permit for it. Am I understanding that correct, Kale?
Yeah, that's right. So I think the high points of the DWR's order to our board after the appeal were that this is a dam, and that to the extent there's a dam that continues to exist there, it's holding back more water than the state statute allows without a permit. And so the directive from the state agency to this board was the board should determine the height to which the dam should be reduced or removed, preferably to be agreed by both the appellant, that's John Roller, and the complainant, that's Thompson. If Mr. Roller is allowed to keep some portion of the dam as concluded by the board shall require Mr. Roller to apply for a construction permit. And so shortly after this board received that, John did come to the board's meeting that was in June of 2022. He said he was going to work with Apex. He said he was going to work with Mick, but that no agreement was being reached. And basically, this board has just held on, waiting to see if the parties can come to an agreement. Ultimately, if they can't, the dam, like Larry said, the state is telling this board the dam's either got to be completely removed or the landowner there needs to apply for a permit. So if there's no agreement to be reached, there's no permit to be applied for, then eventually this board is going to have to send a notice to the landowners of record saying it's got to be removed by this date that the board can set. If it's not removed by that date, the statute says this board then has to go remove it, hire a contractor, have it removed, and then charge those costs back to the landowner. So just wanted to be clear on some of those high points. It's not this board making that determination, but the state's telling us that we need to do this. And so, we're hoping that the landowners can come to an agreement, but if they can't, then ultimately that's where this board has to go.
Any questions on that, Lindsay?
No, not at all, Larry. This is, like we talked about the other day, It's been a long, lost battle of nonsense for everybody involved, including the people I'm looking at today. Thank you for your time and your service continually on this project. It's been one that never seems to have ended. We are completely fine with lowering the dike, B, totally removing it. I just don't want to be responsible for the cost of it. I don't have the equipment anymore. We can start consolidating debts, resources, assets, and estate. We don't have the means to remove it anymore. I'm perfectly fine with it. One person that should probably be made aware of it is Arliss Hart. She stands to lose a considerable amount of land when that dike is removed. I know Kyle was here in the last meeting, and he's also pushing for it to be removed. But I also don't know if he knows, the water moves. It's not just directly going to flow into the Roller Reservoir.
Yeah.
So we're totally fine with it going away. And like you and I talked about, it's a battle that just needs to be done with. I'm tired of hearing about it. We put it in place in 2011 to save the farm. We still have several assets out at the farm. We were still utilizing the farm heavily at that time. Now there's nothing out there. And so we're perfectly fine letting it go.
Okay. Okay, so Kale, what would we need from them then? Anything in writing or?
I don't think we need anything in writing, but eventually this board's going to have to send out a notice to the current landowners of record on the roller land, and it's the tax statement looks like it's Hoff, Hoefs, but that's Arliss Hart, I believe, right?
Yep.
So I think, this board should discuss what it wants in terms of a deadline for that to be removed, because that notice has to say if it's not removed by this date, then we have to remove it. And then I think the board should discuss how it wants to handle those costs. And then the final piece is, I think you need to direct your engineers to determine what that elevation is, so that we know that this order has been complied with. Jennifer said the DWR gave a range, but we're going to have to determine what the elevation is, put the landowners on notice, and then send that out.
Mm-hmm. So that's something we'll have to investigate farther into to determine what that elevation is.
The elevation
Of the original.
Where the dike is, go back to the original.
Yeah. Are we also going to have to notify, since that dam is on 2 parcels of property, we're going to have to notify both parties, correct?
Correct. Yeah, unless Apex says, the dam can be rectified by just removing it from the roll-up property. That's what the complaint was filed.
Yep.
But the state's investigation did note that it's on both properties.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Would it help the board to? Oh, sorry. I was going to just ask if it would help the board to know, what that elevation is and what the cost is. Because what you could do today is direct Apex to, come back to the next meeting with a recommendation on the elevation and the method of removal, and then a cost estimate, so that the board then could debate how to handle that piece, set a deadline at the next meeting, and you can also direct me to prepare that notice between now and the next meeting if the board would like.
I was just going to ask for that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second that. Okay, any discussion on that?
The only question I had is it just one dike?
Well, there's multiple dikes out there, but it's the main one that Mick filed the complaint against.
So he didn't file against the other one?
No.
So it's the only one we're dealing with?
It's just
that
this one, yes. And once that's gone, it's not going to be.
So we really don't need to dismantle the other ones then?
No. I don't see no reason to. Do you guys, Kale, Thomas?
There's no, right, this complaint is limited to the dike that's in that DWR report. So until there's a complaint on anything else, I haven't looked at, or we haven't looked at or investigated anything other than that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think once the original one is removed, the other 2 won't matter.
Right, exactly. Yep.
I'm just thinking from a cost standpoint.
Right. Yeah, we'll do it as cheaply as we can. Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, that takes care of that. Well, thank you for coming in. And we will be in touch with you as
Sounds good.
this progresses along.
You know where I work, you got my number, so.
All right, thank you.
so much.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. Okay, now we're going to move across the 55th Avenue one until about 8 o'clock. Actually, we're going to go ahead and jump in. We're going to take yours, Neil, next. Okay. Kale, this is the one that I talked to you about that's going to be dug underneath of our ditch and Oak Creek Drain. And
Sure.
He's got the plans and stuff here. And do you want to briefly touch on the agreement that we have when we do these kinds of things with Neil?
Yeah, so I've only done this once before, Tom, and you will remember this related to one of your projects, but it was, the Water Resource District has a right-of-way for its assessment drains, and it's got a statutory obligation to inspect and maintain those assessment drains to the best of its ability. And so when a tile project comes up and a landowner wants to install tile within that right-of-way, the concern for this board is always whether or not any of that infrastructure is going to interfere with the board meeting its obligations to inspect and clean out and keep that drain maintained. And so, in the only other example where I've seen this since I've been with this board, the tiling contractor said, look, our tile is going to be so far below your elevation to which you're maintaining that drain that we're not worried any maintenance equipment would interfere with it or crush it, or both the private tile and the assessment drain can both operate there successfully, essentially is what the contractor was saying. And so the board allowed for the tile to go within the right of way, but subject to requiring an encroachment agreement that just says, we know about this, we're allowing this to be within a right of way, but to the extent that any of our maintenance activities cause any damage to the tile, and that leads to any damage to crops or the field that relies on that drainage, we're not responsible for that. So I think it can work, where you need to be in the right of way in order to make your project work, but I think it requires a conversation or understanding with your contractor or whoever's doing the install to know what's the depth of the assessment drain, and as the board is doing its maintenance activities, is that going to interfere with your system at all? If it is, and if it's going to regularly interfere with it, then we might want to talk about alternative designs to fix that. But if it's not, like in our other example, then this can work. The board can direct us to draft up that encroachment agreement once we see the tile plan, and then we present that to you to review and approve.
Neil, on this diagram that they drew up here, or the sheet, here's the outlet, correct?
Inlet.
Oh, that's the inlet. Over here's the outlet.
Yep.
Okay, so you're basically this. Wonder why they did this. It's kind of weird the way they did this. Is that running back to the?
Right here is your guys'
Yes.
waterboard culverts underneath the road, and here is Oak Creek.
Okay. Okay. So the green is the road, basically.
Yep. And
Orange is the ditch.
This is the hump on the other side of your guys' ditch.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, you're boring. Are you gonna? Are they gonna bore it, or are they gonna?
They were gonna dig it.
They're gonna
That's
dig
okay.
it. Okay. Okay. What was the depth below the ditch level?
They told me they were gonna go 4 feet below the bottom of Oak Creek.
Okay.
Is that far enough?
Yeah, I would certainly think so. And how big a pipe was this again?
18.
18-inch pipe. Okay. Alrighty. I don't know. Does anybody else have any questions on it? Basically, they're crossing the road and crossing our ditch to get to the other side.
Well, if it's 4 feet down, I don't ever see cleaning out that.
No.
And it was just cleaned out.
Yeah.
So where it is now is where it's supposed to be. So if we're 4 feet below that,
Mhm.
it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. So, then yours field is on the north side of the.
I have fields on the north and south side.
Okay. 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 So.
What's the
Question, is it 14 feet to the invert or to the top of the pipe?
It'd be 4 feet to the top of the pipe, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just validating. Thank you.
Yep. A legal description on this property is what?
It's section 22 and 27
Fairwell Township.
14868.
What's the size of the tile system? Is it going to be a notification, or is it going to be a permit?
Basically, what we're dealing with, Kale, is a surface inlet on the other side of the road to take the water in and basically take it from one side of the road to the other and pump it out. Because what happens is it's at the bottom of a drain, and that water cannot get out of there until it is the level of the Oak Creek drain is way down.
So less than 80 acres.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. It's basically there's other than the tile, that 18-inch main that runs 831 feet. That's it. So it's just a notification.
Okay.
But I had him excuse me, I had him come in because of the issue of going underneath our drain.
Yeah, so the last one we did was a permit, and so as one of the permit conditions, we required this, but before you start construction, we should get that encroachment agreement prepared, reviewed, approved, and signed by all parties, so that it's not a trespass on our easement. That would be the defense to that. Would say, well, it's been done by agreement with the parties, and then that encroachment would be recorded so that it runs with the property for the statutory limit of 99 years.
Yeah, I explained that to him as well, that he would have to do that. And I guess I'll just ask for a motion to approve this with the understanding that he will be signing that's just a notification, we don't have to approve that.
Okay.
With the understanding that he will sign the encroachment agreement.
What's the sorry, Larry, what's the timeline for construction, Neil?
As soon as possible.
Can you repeat it, Larry? The mic's not picking it
As
up.
soon as possible is
Oh,
what they're
okay.
trying to do, yeah.
So I just plan to use the same one the board approved before for Tom's project there.
Mhm.
Would the board want to just adopt a motion directing Rick Keenan to prepare that and for Larry to approve it so that the project can go forward as soon as that gets drafted and signed?
Okay, can
Or
we
does the board?
basically make that all one motion then?
Yep.
Okay. To make it simpler.
The motion would be to direct Rick Keenan to prepare an encroachment agreement for the chair to approve and sign with the landowner.
Somebody want to make that motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Okay, is any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, I will signify by say. We'll vote and we'll signify, oh my gosh, got tongue twisted. All in favor signify by saying aye. Sorry about that. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. And we'll keep a copy of this as well for our records. And he has brought the notification as for the tiling as well.
I have the notification. Do you want that?
Yep, we'll need that because I'll sign off on that and that'll be kept here as well.
And I'll give you a copy.
Yeah.
Okay, and I got approval from the township as well.
Okay,
I'll take a copy of that too.
how did that go, if you don't mind me asking?
Easy peasy.
Oh yeah, because one of the township supervisors is involved. Okay. Okay,
Yeah, but he was out of town, so I had to go over to Haux and Mertz, and they were fine with that.
good deal.
Hmm.
Good deal. Okay, with that, we are going to back up to old business. Right-of-way permit for Peter Pranke-no information received. So, you still haven't heard nothing back either, have you, Cal?
On the town permit, no. Can you remind me what the right-of-way permit is?
That was in the highway ditch, where they're running the water into the highway ditch. We never did get that, did we?
No, and I've emailed Peter and Ezra multiple times and nothing.
And the right-of-way permit, is between them and the DOT, right? You're talking about the highway cleanout permit.
Yeah, yep.
And so, if they need one and didn't get one, then it's up to DOT to address that with them. And when they do, then I imagine they will force them to put it in front of this board, and we would do our standard motion that it's just, maintenance. But until they provide us that form, there's no action that the board can take on it.
I'll probably have to run up and investigate, where they are actually tiling to make sure that they're not tiling where they don't have a permit.
Right, so to remind the board, they have 3 tile systems. So the first one was the northeast quarter of section 5. That one was less than 80 acres, so that was just a notification. Then in section 4, they received a permit and the notice of decision went out. On that permit, there was no downstream notice because that system outletted directly into a ponderous slough that Pranke's owned. And then the one further to the east, which was the east half of Section 3 and the southwest of Section 2, that one was conditionally approved only upon them providing the tax statements for the downstream landowners. And so immediately after last meeting, I sent both Peter and their contractor an email saying, this one's not approved until you provide us the tax statements. I sent them the information Thomas presented about which landowners are downstream that we need tax statements from. They didn't respond to that email, so I think it was last week or the week before, I sent a follow-up email, no response to that, and then yesterday I called the contractor, no answer, no return phone call. So until they provide those missing documents, there is no permit for that farthest east tile system.
Okay,
And the right of way permit, I just need the mile marker number,
oh, that's right, he did fill that out, didn't he? Okay,
but we didn't do, was it?
Oh, you have the form, but it was not complete, so that issue in it. Okay.
okay. I can
Thank you, Neil.
probably get
Yeah,
that.
thank you
Thanks,
for your
Neil.
time, guys.
So we still have that. I'll get you the milepost marker. And we will get that done. Subsurface water management. Okay, so we're still waiting on that as well. Okay, I guess that takes us into new business. Anne Ehni is not here yet, so we'll just go ahead into the Oak Creek Assessment Drain private crossing deal on.
Do you want to do the Darvin Haux? Jeff Mertz one?
Oh shoot, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got the Darvin Haux and Jeff Mertz complaint. I had a discussion with Matt Lindsay here a week ago last Friday. I received a call from him because I was trying to get to the bottom of why they accepted this complaint, because it was 32 days past when we issued the order. Or that when Darvin Haux got the order for it. And I was told by Matt that the legal counsel there decided that it was okay, that, you know, that's just a suggested ruling or a deal in Century Code, basically is what he was saying. They said that, oh, we can give them up to 3 days of leeway. So they are doing an investigation on that as well. In fact, that very day that I had that conversation with Matt, that afternoon, Garrett Larson was out there doing the investigation. So things are moving rather rapidly with this. And I also asked the question, why did we receive a notification? Because the Century Code says that as well. And their legal counsel said that, no, they really don't have to do that. I don't know. It just, and I, you know, going through all this stuff with this roller dike complaint, reading through there, and, you know, their deadlines seem to be pretty cut and dried at 30 days for a lot of things, and yet this one here is not, so.
Well, Larry, enlighten me a little bit on this thing. Darvin Haux is making a complaint against Jeff Mertz because of the water's not running across his ground, and Mertz dug up to the road, and it's still that.
Well, the problem is Darvin Haux has never cleaned his ditches.
Well, I understand what the problem is.
You know, when we were out there, yeah.
Where are we at here? Is he still pushing the complaint?
Yeah, he appealed it, and they accepted it. Even though he was late, they accepted it.
The complaint was about culverts. The complaint said that there are culverts that are draining onto Darvin Haux property. The board did the investigation. Those culverts are a road authority issue. They've been there. There's been no changes. It was dismissed. We provided both in the cover letter and then the dismissal order, you know, clear instructions on what the appeal procedures were. Darvin missed the appeals period, but he actually never filed an appeal. He filed a new complaint directly with the BWR 32 days after he received the dismissal. and the DWR is treating that as an appeal and moving forward with the investigation. What I had told Larry is, you know, it could be that DWR investigates and leads to the same conclusion, and then this gets dismissed and it's done. And if that's what happens, then, you know, as far as this board is concerned, my opinion is, if there's any harm there, it's to Jeff Mertz, not to this board. What concerns me is we've been trying to figure out how to avoid the costliness of these administrative complaint procedures. And so what concerns me is when there's a clear failure to timely file an appeal, but the DWR takes it up anyway, if after that they find something that needs to be addressed, but they send it back to us and make us address it, that's more time, money, and expense to this board and the taxpayers of Wells County. And so, you know, that was, I think, the nature, Larry, primarily of your conversation with Matt of,
Yep.
You know, it's not that, you know, this board is trying to like hide something that Jeff did, or that this board is biased towards Jeff or biased towards Darvin. It's just that we've seen this play out before, and our concern is when you keep these things active, when they so clearly not follow the procedure, there's a cost to the Wells County taxpayer doing that, and that's what the board's trying to address. And we did, in our comments submitted to the DWR rule changes, they did in their proposed rule include a detailed list of what needs to be included in your appeal. And it says in their proposed rule, if you don't include these things, then they're going to dismiss the appeal and they have no jurisdiction to hear it. So they already believe they have the statutory authority to make that decision. They're just choosing not to do it here because that rule is not final yet. But in our comments, we said in addition to this list of things that you're going to throw out these appeals for, you should add to it the proof that the appellant has provided the Waterboard with a copy and the non-appealing party a copy. Because the statute requires those two things too. And Darvin, like many other people, you know, just skip that. And I think honestly that's what happened on the roller one. To some degree, that thing sat there dormant for 4 years. And then one day we got a notice that it was still active and they were going to start their investigation 4 years later. So.
All we do is wait it out, right?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I don't know if, you know, even back when the roller dikes were done, they did that investigation in 2018, and we never heard anything till 2022 from them. Almost 4 years later, after they did the investigation, we get a letter from them. You know, it's craziness.
Follow every rule.
Oh yeah, yep. So that's basically where we're at with the Darvin Haux complaint right now. So, does that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, I didn't know he appealed it. I mean,
We didn't either.
Actually, technically, he did not appeal it. He filed it as a complaint, but they still took it as an appeal.
oh really?
Yeah.
Darvin even know this is going on? I mean, you know, whatever, it's immaterial, but looking at the situation, you and I were out there, it is such an easy fix.
Yeah, it's like I told Matt Lindsay, I said, yeah, you guys go out and, you know, waste your time going out there. I said, you know, you guys are going to come up with the same conclusion that we did, you know, because you're dealing with natural drainage, you know. But anyway.
I think that's the other thing that's frustrating is we've got a stream crossing study on Fairville Township, 55th Avenue, we've been waiting for months and months and months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was properly filed. Why are they prioritizing these improperly filed late appeals over a stream crossing study? You know, if they didn't have enough work to do, then maybe I can understand it. But the agency constantly is talking about how stressed they are for resources. It would seem to me the easiest way to address that would be people who don't follow the law and don't timely file their appeal. Let's not use government resources on those people.
I agree. Okay. Now we'll move into that private crossing. That would be the one that was south of Kurt Hollingberg's on the Matt Mason land. There's been a survey done on that. Actually, what we're going to do is we are going to table that until we get some further information. I was out there last night and I did take a picture.
You wanna explain, they're looking at that survey.
Oh, the surveying map.
This is,
Well, our leases were disputing the property line, and so they were claiming that Matt was farming over on their land. Well, it turned out is that, yeah, in one end of the field, Matt was farming over probably 7 to 10 feet, something like that. But you get about 1,000 feet down the field, less than that, because it just kind of keeps it, at that point it crosses the line, and leases are farming into Matt Mace's land. And so, the leases had a survey done, and the survey markers are out there now. And what Matt's wanting to do is take that culvert out of that property, or where that
Mason had the survey done, you said lease.
lease had the survey done.
Leases?
Yep,
that was
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, leases had the survey done. Because Matt wasn't going to spend the money, he was fine with the way things were, but they insisted, so that they ended up they're losing property, losing part of the driveway, losing
This is
access
not that
to-
infamous road that gets used so much, is it?
yes.
This is the culvert
Yeah, I
going
need to
from
know.
20 to 24,
Yeah,
and
We
we
change
have,
the sizes on it.
yeah,
and
change the
that's kind of
size
what
of
started
it.
the whole
Now
snowball.
Matt wants to take that out.
Yeah. But at this point in time, I told
That's a
him,
good deal.
we would take a look at it, but obviously we don't have enough information to act on this, so I'm going to ask for a motion to table this at this point in time.
I'll move.
Second,
Yeah.
all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, remote meeting access. Kale, do you want to discuss that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, so, Larry had just asked me to provide the board a brief summary on what North Dakota's open meeting law requires in terms of providing remote access to meetings to the public. So I did look into that and prepared a summary for the board. The open meeting law in North Dakota requires that meetings of the board be open and accessible to the public, but the law does not require that access be provided through remote technology. All that the Century Code requires is that the public be able to attend in person at the designated meeting location. So remote access is allowed. It's considered an optional courtesy, but it's not legally required. And I distinctly remember noting this when the board initiated first providing this remote access to the meeting. So certainly it's up to the board to decide what to do. If the board has concerns about remote access creating issues with maintaining governance during meetings, then it's within its rights and power to adopt a motion directing staff to close off remote access to the public.
So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to that we close off the access to the remote for the public.
I'll move.
Okay, is there a second? All right, any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, still no Anne Ehni, huh?
I can catch it.
Okay, we're gonna go, let's see here. We're gonna go into legislative legal costs. Kale, do you want to just briefly just tell the board what we were talking about with the meeting that we had yesterday?
Sure. So there was a meeting held yesterday with some representatives from the Foster County Water Resource Board. Larry sat in on it. I sat in on it. And some representatives from the agriculture community to talk about water management and roadways. And so I'd say there's two primary issues being discussed that there's interest both, I think, in the Water Resource District community and in the agriculture community to address when it comes to water management and roads. One of them is tiling and road crossings. So right now, it's clear in Century Code that if you have a tile system and you need to cross a roadway, that the road authority is the local government entity with authority to make those decisions. But it's really broad in statute. It doesn't comment on or address tile crossings. It just says, we're the road authority. We make decisions about how our right of way is used. And I'd say, maybe this comes up occasionally in Wells County. I think it's becoming a real issue in Foster County, but the issue is essentially, can a road authority stop you from crossing a roadway that you need to cross with a private tile system? If it's an assessment drain, we know what the statute says there, but if it's a private tile system, can that be addressed? And so I'd say that's kind of one of the issues. Is the group was interested in looking at whether or not there should be in statute the right to a permit for a tile crossing. So in Minnesota, there's a statute that says landowners adjacent to the road, you have a right to get a permit to cross a road right of way with your tile system. And in fact, if you make the demand as the tile or as the roadway is being reconstructed, the road authority has to cover that cost. That's Minnesota law. But the road authority has the ability to set some conditions in terms of, method of construction, restoring the roadway, safety, all those things. But I've heard this around the state where there's concerns that, road authorities, especially townships, are just saying, no, we don't want to deal with it, we don't want to mess with it, so, we're not going to work with you at all, even though you need to cross the road with your private tile system. Then the second issue is culverts, and both culverts on assessment drains, which would be, a potential legislative fix if we lose the Fairville Township case in front of the Supreme Court, and then also intercept culverts. So culverts that aren't on assessment drains, but are within the taxing district, and that the Waterboard is relying on in order to ensure landowners can get access to the assessment drains that they're taxed on. So the proposal is, to do two things immediately. One is look at the North Dakota Water Resource District Association resolutions and see if we need to get any resolutions addressing these two issues put before the convention coming up in December. And then number two is, drafting an outline of what changes to statute are being looked at and considered in order to address those two issues. And so Foster County has asked me to do this, but to talk to my other water resource district clients. So Wells County, you being one of them, Bottle County and Renville being the other. And then similar to what I've done in the past, to the extent those boards agree, I would be willing to work with any of them on the issue. If interests diverge, then I have to conflict out and step aside. But to the extent those boards agree on what's being done, then there can be some defrayed, cost sharing for that time and effort. So those are the two asks for me, and then the recommendation out of our meeting yesterday was, once we get those two things done, we should, as we work on them, meet with Jack and Danny to address them, meet with the ag groups to address these issues, and then pick a couple legislators to sponsor the effort, and then work with those legislators to figure out, who on both the Senate and the House side we should meet with and talk about the issue, educate about the existing law, why we're asking for the change. We want to be mindful of the concerns of the road authority, but try to have a proposal ready and the education piece done, by about mid-year next year, so we're not scrambling going into the 2027 session with the idea.
Anybody have any
So
questions? Go ahead, Cal.
I was going to say, could we have some feedback from the board, and then to get a motion from the board if you want to direct me to work on those two initial things, the resolution and the proposed legislative changes. And then that would have to be ready by the November meeting, because that convention is coming up here in December. So
Is that something we want to participate with? Basically, what it's doing is trying to clean up some of the legislation so we don't end up with issues like we did with Fairville Township. And yeah, there's a fair number of counties, water boards throughout the state that are dealing with the same stuff. Now, sounded like Sean Fredericks is gonna have some counties he was working with as part of this as well.
Yeah, I talked to him about these very two issues, and he said in the Red River Valley, his water resource districts are encountering issues primarily with what he calls the intercept culverts. So these would be culverts where the road authority has a primary jurisdiction because they're not on the assessment drain. But if the road authority were to remove those or interfere with those, then people who are taxed for the drain would no longer have their water flowing across the road and get into the drain. And so he said his Red River Valley Water Resource Districts would be interested in participating in order to make sure that the intercept culvert authority gets addressed.
So if you work on this, if Foster County asks you to bring it up to us, does that get split to the other counties too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I do is for all the counties that agree to be a part of this or an agreement on what they're working towards, just run one timer, and then when it's done, I divide it by the number of clients and split it out. So like on the proposed amendments to the DWR rule, that was all, well, I did two things there. I flat feed it, took a little hit on it, and I'm okay with that. I think it was important. But divided the time out, 4 ways to ensure that if I would have been under my flat fee, that everybody would have paid the same amount.
Yeah, basically doing the same things we've done in the past.
And the other counties are on board with this?
Just Foster and Wells so far. Botno meets the third Monday of the month, so next week. Renville does not meet again until January, but I'm going to call their chair, Peter Gates, and see if he, as the chair, wants to direct me to do it and then have it ratified in January.
I can't imagine Botno County not going along with it.
They've had, Botno County is fortunate in that they've got some of the oldest assessment drains in the state, so the attitude of the landowners and the road authorities is very cooperative. They don't run into some of the same issues here, but they do have some of the same viewpoints. So they are equally interested in making sure these authorities and statute are clear. And although they don't have issues with the county and the township, they do have an issue right now with the DOT telling them, we don't think this ag land that you want to drain should be drained, and so they're denying a state highway road crossing that's needed to make an assessment drain work. So it still is an issue up there, and I imagine they're going to go along with it.
I can't imagine why any township would be objecting to having an assessed drain in there, especially as time goes on with the cost of everything. To have somebody else help pay for some of this infrastructure cost, culverts, whatever, just makes no sense. But anyway, I guess I'll ask for a motion if you guys agree that we will participate with this.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, Anne, you are up next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just want to give you an update on the Harvey Dam situation. It was a 2-year project which ended September 30th. We got the stream samples were done all along the river. The lake samples we have not finished, which is really where our focus was on the lake. But because our coordinator left in May, that left money left, there's funds left over. So the Department of Environmental Quality has agreed to extend it another year because there's enough funds for that, focusing strictly on the lake sampling. So then we have a complete picture of the stream, upstream to the lake and downstream, what the water quality issues are. And then from there, somebody can make an educated decision what they want to do. The Soil Conservation District is, doing the doing the assessment, they would have to make a decision at a meeting as a board, but they've indicated they're not interested in being the facilitator of implementing whatever project, because it's gonna be extensive, and we just don't have the employees to facilitate that. But nothing will be done now until 27. In 26, we'll have the data from the streams, we'll have the data from the lake, from the reservoir. When I say lake, I mean reservoir. You know, what's there. And then we'll gather a meeting of the stakeholders again and see who might want to do what, if anything. The harmful algal blooms in the reservoir were off the records this year. One of the guys at the Department of Environmental Quality said it's the worst he's seen in his career, and it's the third worst in the history of lake assessments in North Dakota.
Isn't that strange with all the moisture we had this year that it's like that?
Yeah. But it's,
So you know what the quality is in the streams with the water running in and the water running out. You just know what it is in the reservoir. So,
Right.
So is the quality running in the same?
they haven't pulled all those numbers together yet. We've just finished that a few weeks ago with our last assessment. So they will be pulling all that together. And they have it from this project as well as from a project, I believe it was in 95, 96, where they assessed the stream, not in the exact same spots, but up and down from the reservoir. So we'll be able to compare what's happened in the last 20 or 30 years, in the streams and the lake. I don't know that there's ever been a assessment, in the deepest part of the lake and, really looking at the water. But I wanted to let you know that the Department of Environmental Quality has approved just extending the project an extra year. They don't need to designate any additional funds because they've got funds left over from the initial project. And that's where we're at. And the board has agreed to do that. The Soil Conservation District Board has agreed to do that, for 26.
Okay,
So that's where we're at.
okay. All right, well, thank you for the update.
Okay, very good.
You will have that data, once they put it
As
together.
soon as they get it put together, yes, and I'll be sure that you get a copy of it, just showing them graphs of
Okay.
what's where. Similar
So
to
maybe
what
once you
we-
get that, if you don't mind coming back to us again.
Oh,
we'll just visit
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely, I will. As well as I'll send it out to all the other stakeholders, people who have, who have an interest in what the future of the
So the main
reservoir.
thing is to improve the quality of the water, or is it to make more water?
I think the purpose is to find out what's there. And then somebody has to decide if they're gonna try to improve the water quality, or if they're just going to ignore it, do nothing, or do something. But you can't really I don't think anyone can make that decision until they know what the problem is. But we do know that most years there's a harmful algal bloom, which is dangerous to people as well as animals and, dogs and fishermen and all of that.
So more water doesn't make that go away, does it?
No, if, and I don't know how you could put more water in there,
Well, there was the idea of raising the level,
oh, sure,
the
sure,
dam and all that.
yeah, that's right,
Dredging it and stuff like that.
right.
Mhm.
Right, and I don't think anybody knows what the fix is until they know what the problem is.
Jennifer, do you have a question?
I do, thank you so much. And you and I met a while back, just joining in. One of part of this whole study, are they going to be producing a report that provides like possible recommendations to address the water quality issues, or is it just kind of a report findings? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm sure with the report, they'll have some ideas of what might help the situation. You know, if it just depends on what information is in the report.
Could you try again?
Or serious, confused. I think, I don't know, I'm assuming they will. Somebody will know, or have to make a decision.
Yeah, it would just be great for all parties, I think, if the agency has some solutions or know what those costs may be to those solutions can they incorporate that into their report?
I would assume so,
It's
but
maybe worth the question to DEQ. I don't know.
yeah, I can certainly pose that question.
Because then I think what that does is it helps the other parties involved, soil conservation, water resource district, maybe the city of Harvey, to, if there's things brought in that report, to start having those discussions, if or can they address any of these issues, or is there then again another step once these findings are done that has to be funded by someone? So that's just kind of where my question came from.
Yes, the assessment phase that we are in right now does just that. It assesses the water upstream, the water in the reservoir, and the water downstream. And then the project could move on to an implementation phase where they do something about it. And so it, will definitely be an opportunity to do something about it. But they can't suggest what to do until they really know what the problem is.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks. Okay, I see Brian Schmidt has joined our meeting. And so the next item on the agenda will be the 55th Avenue crossing in the Oak Creek Sediment Drain. I'm going to ask Kale to begin the recording of the meeting, and then we will move into executive session. So Ivy will ask you to shut the camera off and step outside. If you want to come in when we're done, we can allow you to do that as well.
Yeah, I'll be here.
All we have to do yet is approve the bills. That's all we have left on the agenda.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Okay. Okay. And Gary, we're going to be turning you off at this point in time as well.
Gary, if you're interested in rejoining after the executive session is done, then when you log off, you can reconnect, but I won't admit you again until the board comes back out of closed session.
Can I ask one question?
Not at this time, you can't.
Thank you.
Okay.
Larry, why don't you go ahead and read the rest of the information about the legal authority for going into closed session that leads up to the motion while we wait for our members of the public to exit.
Okay. We are being joined with our special legal counsel, Brian Schmidt, who would like